evening, and thank you so much for joining us on this edition of Spectrum Extra, live on Radio 1 FM 90. Being a Friday, is a time that we review the major events of the week, and we'll be looking at some of the major happenings on the political scene. Well, this week, we saw a number of activities taking place that are closely connected to the 2026 general elections from the different angle you look at it. For starters, we saw the National Unity Platform Party complaining about what it has described as an abduction of their members. The latest one being the deputy party spokesperson, Alex Waiswa Mufumbiro. He was abducted according to the political party, but according to the security agencies, he was arrested and arraigned in court and charged with a similar offense like the others are actually facing. That is conducting what they call unlawful drilling. That activity happened at the party headquarters, and there was a guard of honor which was inspected by the party president, Robert Kyagulanyi Ssentamu. And the security forces are insisting that this is not political persecution, but they're simply following the law. But there are questions. Why conduct those arrests right now as we are in an electoral season, yet this event happened about 6 months ago? And there are so many questions around that. Like I've told you, the security agencies have insisted they are acting as provided for by the law. Also this week we've seen close of business today, about 15 aspirants who picked forms to aspire for the presidency have returned them. Now the Electoral Commission embarks on scrutinizing them to see whether they are forged or not. It's from this list that we'll probably be able to tell who will be nominated to run for the presidency. All the major persons you think about have tendered in their signatures. The NRM did it today. Yesterday, the NUP returned the signatures for their aspirant, and so many other people did the same. We'll be looking at that also in detail and what it means. We know parliamentary nominations are coming up very soon. NRM has already gone through this process, and the constituencies where they had challenges, they sorted out these issues this week. NUP has announced that starting on Monday, they will be vetting their aspirants. One of the people had expressed interest for Kampala woman district seat, that is a lady identified as Winfred Nakandi, pulled out yesterday saying she was not ready to be part of a scam. Apparently, she fears that what transpired when the political party handled the issue of the local government aspirants is likely to happen again in the parliamentary process. We'll be looking at that in detail. Well, we know this week we are commemorating the 30th anniversary of the Ugandan Constitution. There's been an ongoing discussion on whether this Constitution has met what was expected of it. If you look at the preamble, they talk about avoiding our troubled past, which was characterized by human rights violations and democratic tendencies, breakdown in rule of law, arbitrary arrests, extrajudicial killings, among others. Now, this chapter promises that such a thing should never happen again. Now, while it is noted that this constitution has fostered peace, security, and development, some gains, especially in the areas of governance, human rights have been eroded, according to the experts. On Monday, a new school term will be opening, but we have already had the Uganda National Teachers Union has announced a strike, and this strike is because teachers who, impart knowledge in art are actually going on strike over what they are calling failure by government to meet its promises, which has lasted for over 3 years. They want, an increment similar to what happened to their counterparts who actually impart the knowledge of science. Are these teachers wrong or right? We'll be looking at that issue in detail. I have a panel of 4. 2 are already here in studio. We are also waiting for the others to actually walk in here. But we will start with those who are here. Let me introduce Dr. Judith Nalukwago. She's a secretary for professionals in the National Unity Platform Party. She's also running as the party flag bearer for Woman Councillor LOC5 in Makindye West. Good evening. It's a pleasure having you on Spectrum Extra, and this is your maiden appearance.
Surely. Thank you so much. Wenchima, I am also very happy to be here. I'm happy to be part of this platform, and I hope we are able to deliberate well and inform Ugandans of what is happening in their country.
Already in studio, Mr. Timothy Chemonges is Executive Director at Parliamentary Watch. He's also holding the same position at the Center for Policy Analysis. Good evening, Mr. Chemonges. I hope very soon you'll give me one of those titles. I can be an Executive Director, Parliamentary Watch, as you work at SEPA.
Thank you so much, Anderson. Good to be here and glad to be part of this discussion today, to weigh into the perspectives of this country, but also to see how our contributions can weigh into the direction of the country. Thank you.
All right. We expect 2 more panelists to actually walk in here in studio. Once they arrive, I'll actually give them an opportunity to introduce themselves, or I'll actually introduce them to you. But let's begin the discussion. And I want to begin with you, Mr. Timothy Chemonges. You follow closely the happenings on the political scene. You've been seeing what happened. Some people have been referencing what has been happening on the political scene, especially the issues of the arrests of NUP people, similar to what happened before the 2021 general election. But let me not bias your thoughts. Let's begin from that. Maybe you can begin by sharing with us your major highlight, the political happenings this week.
So thank you so much, Anderson. I think that when we are looking at the ongoing situation in the country, we should be reminded of a number of things that have happened in the past. Again, you can't look at this in isolation. The question of abductions, allegations, for some, has been a thing that has been with us for some time, and it scales up as we come towards the general elections. And when you look at the general elections in 2021, you'll notice that the biggest victims of this are largely the opposition parties and those that are aligned towards the opposition parties. And so when we see the arrests of some of the members of the National Unity Party, there are a couple of things for me that will be of keen interest. The first is around the timing. Irrespective of what the issue could be, there is quite a lot that tells, especially when we are headed towards the general election, and we've seen a continuous or targeted attacks or targeted arrests specifically towards the opposition. So timing for me speaks to the fact that beyond the issue at hand, I think that increasingly we see the deliberate frustration and efforts towards curtailing the opposition members. Again, looking at the question of time. The army, again, of course, which is undertaking most of this, what they call arrests, and I think for the better part, they would qualify as abductions. I think that the army has for the better part not exercised partiality. They have not been impartial. And for the better part, you see that they seem to reflect and bear some tenets of supporting the government of the day. And it becomes some sort of an extension of the government. Yet ideally they should be the state to protect the interest of all Ugandans, irrespective of who they are. The other, I think, for me, is the impunity that we continue to see as far as arrests are concerned. Because I think that whether there are issues that the individuals who have been arrested or abducted have, there is a system, there is a procedure that is already put in place in how individuals should be arrested and actually brought to court. And I think for me it's sometimes lack of proper strategy to understand that even the process that the army or the police undertakes for the better part frustrates and undermines the objective of the arrest. So for now, you see that what we are looking at, there's so much suspicion that is rising up. Yet the army or the police could be actually having a very legitimate issue as far as the arrests or the abductions are concerned. So for me, I think there is quite a lot telling in terms of what the timing looks like, but also the approach that the army has continued to undertake. I'm a bit concerned. And so when you look at the concerns that the new members are raising in terms of their members abducted, of course, like Mufumbiro has already been presented before the...
They've already been charged with a similar offense.
Yeah, and we've seen the army spokesperson promising that there may be a few others, especially those that participated in what they are calling the illegal drilling. But when you look at the Penal Code Act and try to interpret it further, you'll notice that there are quite a number of things that are missing.
What do you know about illegal drilling? I want a listener who is probably picking this word for the first time to understand exactly what the Penal Code Act says.
So the Penal Code Act defines definitely what illegal drilling under Section 45, and it's towards individuals, a group of people or individuals trying to conduct themselves exhibit a militaristic approach in doing certain things. Of course, many of these drills, when you look at the Penal Code Act, it provides in terms of who would qualify and what you should be able to, what you should go through to ensure that you undertake the same. So the first is around the permission from the minister, that for individuals who are planning or hoping to undertake these drills, it could be some sense of either, sometimes it could take different forms, parading, it could be running, but it's a form of conduct.
Anything similar to what the military does.
Anything similar of that nature. And to that end, the law suggests or indicates that, one, you must be able to seek permission from the minister. Two is that for this to qualify, I think that there must be use of arms and military exercise movements, and for which again I think there is quite a lot to prove whether the NUP members had these arms. At least from what I saw through the media, I don't see any, and so there is quite a lot to prove. But irrespective of whether the NUP have an issue to answer, I think that there is a very clear procedure in which we must all follow.
All right.
Secondly, the army must take interest in ensuring that we do not frustrate issues through the process. The process that we undertake to exercise our powers is very important in ensuring that that objective is realized.
All right. Good enough. We have somebody here from the National Unity Platform Party who actually sits on the National Executive Committee, and that is Dr. Nalukwago. Dr. Nalukwago, if you can give us an explanation from the perspective of your party, we want to understand how your party has perceived this issue. You clearly had your colleague explaining what illegal drilling means, and I'm assuming on that very day you were probably at the National Unity Platform headquarters and saw exactly what happened. How is your party perceiving this matter?
Thank you so much, and thank you to the listeners. One is, that day I wasn't at the party headquarters. I was at work, but I was following closely. You know, for us health workers, we work any day of the week.
Just like a journalist.
Exactly. So that day I was at work, but I remember it was the president's birthday. He had gone to Mpigi. No, Mpigi, he had gone to... What's the name of the hospital?
The hospital where he was born from.
Yes. So he had gone to do some charity work. Then he came back and he was welcomed to a parade. That I don't know where the army got from illegal drilling on a parade, because parades happen in primary school, secondary school, and many other places elsewhere. So one, my colleague here has said on the panel that there are some aspects that have to be part of that parade, let me call it parade, to show that it's illegal drilling. And one of them is firearms, and none of that was showed in that video. And also performing certain exercises. And none of that, they were just people lining up and welcoming their president, which is okay.
There was an inspection of the guard, which could qualify as a military activity.
You know, someone walking through the parade, even at school, we used to walk through the parade. It doesn't mean that it's military inspection. Those are two different things. Even in school, you remember we studied and we used to have all those things happen. So did it mean that we're doing drilling in school, in primary school? Or
Maybe
school?
the Minister of Education was granted permission by the minister
so for me,
to conduct such drills.
You see,
because that's what the law says.
You see, sometimes we take these things out of context. It's very important for us Ugandans to understand what context are these opposition political parties operating in. Because regardless whether it was illegal or legal, NUP was going to face consequences. This government has arrested people for speaking up for better education, for better health. They have arrested people speaking up for better health. You can imagine someone wants their mother to have safe delivery. of children. Someone wants their sister to be able to go to school and not experience, for example, have food at school, have enough teachers, and that person is arrested and they are detained for years. So you can imagine if that can happen. Now imagine such a thing of a parade. So the government will always find an excuse. The military government we are in, it's a military government. What Ugandans don't know that what we have in this country today as Uganda, I would liken it to a company, like how we had IBEA, Imperial British East African Company, where there are CEOs and all that are governing that company. So for you, the others, because you know how these British used to govern us, our rights didn't matter. Irrespective of what you think or what you believe or what you think your rights, human rights are, they didn't matter at that time, and that is what we are under Museveni. Just because people haven't understood. Because when you look at the structure of the top important positions in the country, they're owned by the first family. First family sits in those positions. So what, for you as a Ugandans out there, wouldn't you think that we are being ruled as a company? So even when we come and discuss these issues on this table, it's very important to discuss them and understand what is happening in our country, but what is it going to change? Because even when I get out today, I can be abducted. We're just living on the mercy of God. So what is important is for Ugandans, as general, as a whole, irrespective of the party you're living in. Because even you in NRM, you can be abducted. You might think you're the company, the IBEA, ruling this country, but one day you will make a misstep, and these very people whom you call your friends, or the house Negroes versus the farm Negroes, these people will put you in chains. That's what they're doing to us, the opposition. So it's upon us Ugandans to come together to oppose what is happening generally in our country, because the challenge is not even the abductions. The challenge is what we are going through as the people of Uganda, of unemployment, not having enough money, not having health services, not having proper education, not having infrastructure, roads, schools. That is what matters to us, because a common Ugandan who doesn't have what to eat tonight may not think so much of the abductions, but they're going to ask themselves, how am I going to survive the next day? That is what is on the minds of Ugandans. Yes, abductions are happening in my party, and I am very sad. And I know anytime what I'm saying here is very against this government, I can get out here and I'm no more. But what should I do? Should I stop speaking now? No, I cannot stop speaking now, because if I don't, my children will suffer the same consequences I'm suffering. So that is why I call upon Ugandans, irrespective of your age, your profession, because people ask me, oh, you're a medical doctor. Why are you saying all these things? People, I am not comfortable. The money I work for, when you compare to my colleagues across the country here in Kenya, they are paid 10 times what I'm paid. Moreover, I work much, much more longer hours. So where I am, I'm not comfortable. Where I am, you can imagine I work in a hospital, but if I got sick, I cannot pay its medical bills. So if I cannot be treated in the hospital I work in, what kind of a country am I living in? Those are the challenges we are facing as Ugandans, on top of the abductions, on top of, like, the government just comes up with with new things every other time to make sure that the opposition is put down. So, yes.
So when you sit down as a leadership of your political party and you look at what is happening generally, what's your planned response?
One, for us, we believe in people power. The first thing we believe in is telling the people what is happening to everyone. That is why for us we use the power of social media. Social media is one of our most important things, because, you know, they stop us from these physical gatherings. So one, social media, inform the people of what is happening. It's very important, because people cannot work when they are not informed. So we have to inform them of what is happening, because this is happening to us Ugandans as a whole. It's not happening that it's NUP, because Sam Mugumya was not NUP. Sam Mugumya was FDC, stroke PPF, but he was abducted, and up to now he's nowhere to be seen. So we have to inform Ugandans. Dr. Kizza Besigye, up to now they have not yet started his trial, you can imagine. And the days for granting bail already passed. So our challenges as NUP are not the challenges of NUP as just the party. They're challenges of opposition in general. So we let these people understand that these are the challenges we are going through. Please, we need you to come together and we fight. We are people power. We need to fight this collectively. Because I, Nalukwago, cannot fight alone, it's impossible. I am a small body in a very big country. But when I come together with other Nalukwagos, with the other Lukwagos, with the other Ainevionas, with the Akelos, I come together with people from the East, there is so much we can do to change this country. So for us as NUP, one, we are doing that, informing people. Two, we are having legal representation for our people. Yes, they are abducted, but we are also following some of those procedures to make sure that, one, is our people are represented very well. Then number two is we are trying to support their families. Because you can imagine, I give you an example, someone like Bobby Young, who has been, or Machete, who have been in jail for almost 4 years, ever since 2021 elections ended. These are young men who have families. They have children, they have parents, and they were breadwinners of those families. So with them being in jail for such a long time, we the party are forced to step in to do things here and there. Of course, we have people who have volunteered to give us some money here and there to help them. So it's a big burden, but that is what we signed up for, and we are ready to go all the way.
All right.
Yes.
Before I actually move back to Mr. Chemonges, what do you think are some of the implications when you sit down like you are a politician, or when you interact with members of the public, probably who talk about what is happening to your political party? We are preparing for an election. Are you people not scared that probably this will have an effect on your support base or things like that?
As a medical doctor and a scholar or a love of psychology, I know such things scare people, and when you interact with them, you see everyone gets scared. Even I'm human. Being scared is a natural and a human process. But what happens when you get scared? How do you respond? That is where the difference is. Some of us came in this struggle, we knew that the struggle is not a sprint, it's a marathon. I might want things to change today, but they may not happen. Nelson Mandela was in prison for 20 years. He didn't even know what is next. Probably thought he would die in jail and other people would take over. But he had hope. What is most important for our people as we talk to them down there, even them, they encourage us, by the way. They know we go through a lot, we as the leaders who are leading this revolution. They talk to us and like, you know what, doctor? It's the hope that keeps us going. People are scared, but they're like, no, even when I'm scared, I have to do this because I am doing this for myself. I'm doing this for my children. I'm doing this for my family. So it is beyond the human nature of getting scared. It is to our survival. If I get scared and sit back, how am I going to live in my house, come back to my children, and I don't have 1,000 Uganda shillings to feed them? That is a question they ask themselves. So the fear is taken away by the hope for a new Uganda that works for them, that there is medical care, there is schools, there are roads. That is the hope that keeps driving us and the people of Uganda. All
right, Spectrum Xtra on Radio 1 FM 90. We need to take a break now. When we return, we'll expound the discussion further to clearly understand what this means as we move towards the 2026 general election. Stay tuned to Radio 1 FM 90. Keep your comments coming via the WhatsApp line 0703 090. We continue after this break. Thank you so much for staying with us on Spectrum Xtra, live on Radio 1 FM 90, reviewing the major events of the week. I have a panel of three are already here. We've just been joined by the third one, but let me introduce those who are here first. Dr. Judith Nalukwago, Secretary for Professionals in the National Unity Platform Party. She's a candidate for Women Councillor LS5 in Makindye West. Also in studio, Mr. Timothy Chemonges is Executive Director, Parliamentary Watch and the Center for Policy Analysis. And our third panelist, Dr. James Tweheyo, member of the NRM Electoral Commission, outgoing from the Central Executive Committee, where he has been representing workers. I don't know the last time Mr. Tweheyo took my views to the Central Executive Committee because I'm a worker. Nevertheless, he tells us he's fresh from the NRM Parliamentary Caucus. Dr. James Tweheyo,
yes,
welcome to Spectrum.
Good evening, my brothers and sisters here present, Chemonges, Narukwago, and you, Kenneth, and good evening to the listeners. I must apologize first for coming in late. And as I told you, I left Entebbe, where we had a caucus, to come in and join the team here to discuss and share views and inform the country of what is happening, what is likely to happen, what could happen, and how we can work together as citizens of this country to make our country better.
All right.
Yes.
It's a pleasure having you. Well, by the time you entered this studio, you found us having a discussion about what your government is again doing to National Unity Platform Party, the arrests of some of its leaders, some of its members. While they are concerned about them, they say they remain undeterred and determined to wrestle with you in the 2026 general elections. But Dr. James Tweheyo, why is this happening again?
I was listening. First of all, I was with you. Even though I was physically away, I was with you. Right from the start. Actually, I just went off the radio when my sister, Dr. Narkwago, was saying Mandela, when he was in prison, he was not deterred because of what was happening outside prison and what had happened to him. It is true, some people have been arrested. Not only, by the way, not only the opposition, but other people who do what is not right within the framework of the law. You can make a mistake knowingly, you can also make it unknowingly. That mistake remains a mistake. To me, what I see, what could be a problem is perhaps, as my colleagues were saying, the manner in which they are arrested, and possibly if they were arrested and not arraigned to courts of law to get justice. And possibly the time frame in which they are arraigned. That one, we can have an argument about it. But once they are subjected to court, I would think it would be best to give an opinion, yes, but allow the processes and procedures of court to prove the innocence or the guilt of that individual. So I wouldn't want to say that my brothers and sisters in NOP are angels. And even Narkwago said so. They are not angels. There are some who could be victims, but there are also others who could be actually villains, to use a better word, who may be arrested for the mistakes they have committed.
All right.
Including even our own people in our party. I don't know why you don't talk about such people. Because, for example, during our elections, we had a number of people we arrested. Why are you not talking about them? The registrars who changed results, they were arrested.
When that happened, we really had a discussion here.
Yes,
but we talked about
it. But then why don't you condemn it? Because you see, when somebody makes a mistake, whether intended or not intended, you should accept that is a mistake first of all.
Okay.
And after that, then you should look at the manner in which this mistake is corrected.
All right. Now let's look at the mistake in the context of NUP.
Yes.
What do you treat as a mistake?
According to the accusations, and you said it here, that they were conducting military drills. That is the statement made. Whether it was a military drill or not, I cannot prove myself. What he was talking about, my brother Chemongis, was that, yes, I saw it on the social media. To me, it looked like a military drill, but there are ingredients which must be proved to make it a military drill. And he said he didn't see those ingredients. It is now, in my view, court which can prove that. Those ingredients could be there, could be edited if you see it from the social media, or could be even added. Suppose they were added according to the social media. What would happen? So I would think it is only fair. Now that our brother has been paraded the courts of law, to allow the court to prove him innocent. And after all, we have always said in Uganda, you are innocent until you are proved guilty. Personally, I still stand by the law to say he is innocent until he is proved guilty. But being innocent, wait a minute, being innocent does not guarantee that you should not be brought to justice to prove your innocence.
All right. Dr. Tweheyo, and one would wonder about the timing. Of course, it's an issue you knew very well. I'm not saying you're the one who did the arrest, but you come from a political party that is in charge of this country. And we are looking at the timing. The election season. You're providing your competitors ammunition. You know,
that is very true.
Something
Actually,
to talk about. Are you happy about
it? If I were them, I would even cry more foul. But then I would ask, even these land fellows who are here, what is the right time to arrest somebody who is guilty? Or who is a suspect? What is the right time to arrest a suspect? According to the lawyers, they will say it should be during the day, and the manner it would be prescribed. Yes, that could be erratic in its own way, because they would say, he was, I don't know the time he was arrested, by the way. I need to be told whether it was day or night. I need to know the manner in which he was arrested.
Brutally.
Others say, wait a minute. Others would say he was abducted. Wait a minute. Others would say he was abducted. Others would say he was resisting arrest. All of those things can come in. But I would be unfair to say this side is wrong, this side is right, when the land people, the judges and the magistrates are there to say, look, this is what it is, and when people can tender evidence and say that. So I don't want really to be prejudicial. I would want to give chance to the law take its course. I want to thank God that this person who was arrested and many others have been arraigned to courts of law, and these courts will prove them innocent.
No political persecution? Is that what you're saying?
Well, of course.
Because that's what NUP is
Wait
actually
a minute.
saying.
I said if I were them, I would cry persecution because it works for me. You get that? But then it would be taking advantage. And if I were the one to advise on the arrest, I would say arrest them in the manner that will minimize their chances to cry for and say, they are hunting us. But whether you are in NRM, whether you are in FDC, whether you are in NUP, when you do what is not within the law, I'm not saying you should not be arrested, but you should be put to order.
All right. Spectrum X on Radio 1 FM 90. Our fourth panelist has joined us, and that is none other than Ms. Charity Kalebo. She's the Executive Director at Election Watch Institute, Pandit on Governance and Human Rights Issues, but she's also a seasoned election observer. Good evening, Charity. It's a pleasure having you on Spectrum Extra.
A very good evening, Kenneth, and to all our listeners, a very good evening, and to the panelists, a good evening. Well, I'm happy to be here.
Well, you came in as the discussion on the arrests, NUP will tell you abductions. I don't know how you describe it. That's what we were discussing. As somebody who keenly follows politics, are you surprised that this is happening? And what do you think would be the implications on the political terrain?
So am I surprised that at this time NUP supporters are being arrested? I am not surprised. We saw it in 2021. In the previous elections of 2016, we had seen other political parties like FDC because it had been a major political contender at the time. And in 2021, it was more a question, they said, to do with failure to comply with the COVID-19 guidelines. This time round, it has many facets. The Waiswa, I'm not certain why Waiswa was being arrested the way he was being arrested. And I like the fact that I found Dr. Tweheo talking about the way in which people are arrested. The law does prescribe how a person has to be arrested. So if I make you disappear like Wine Big Wine, what was his name? The first one that was arrested. What is his name? But he has a pseudonym. Big Wine.
The guy from Busoga.
The
Giant.
Bobby Giant.
Something.
Exactly, because that is there.
It's a weekend. I wouldn't blame you for thinking about wine. But let's continue with the discussion.
Bobby Giant, because he has a name similar to their principal. So I had to find, I've read it, it's playing on my mind.
You had to look for wine.
I had to look for wine. So
Okay.
anyway, so when he was arrested, it took about a full day without knowledge of where he was. Now that is not good for democracy. That's not good for rule of law. That's not good for electoral processes. Why? Because we discourage intimidation, we discourage arbitrary arrests, we discourage what else? Brutal arrests. Now he was brutally arrested, stopped on the way, taken in a car that looked like a Noah, something like that, and it had some number plates. I've seen the people of NUP recording a grey Noah, a UBK, putting it out on TikTok and saying, this is the car that is arresting our supporters. You have children. We know where you stay. We shall also follow you. We shall also arrest you, and you feel the same pain. Now, that said, these political happenings at the time before nominations is a pointer that by the time we get into the political campaigns, it's going to be thrice what we see now. So the tension is going to be built more. And there will be more arrests. The question is, why the arrests? Is it working in the advantage of the National Unity Platform? Is it working in the advantage of security? When it was Nubian Lee, that one, the explanation was Electoral Commission didn't want him to hold a procession immediately after nomination. Although he said he has a right to hold a procession. Now, I wouldn't have had a problem with him holding a procession if the law was providing that at that point he holds a procession. The Electoral Commission has to determine. It's the Electoral Commission that sets the standard for how an election is going to play out. So the Electoral Commission said, if you're being nominated now, and they've done it even for local government nominees, that if you're being nominated for local government, you cannot go with a procession. It's kind of very funny.
They give you the numbers.
It's very funny because in the past, if I was standing as a candidate, I was nominated, and I have my trail with me because, I'm happy. Elections are supposed to be euphoric. They're supposed to be eccentric things, exciting, not things of wrap me under a carpet and put me down. No. The thing with elections is the tide. How do you feel the pulse, the electoral pulse? That is why we tell you that they are contentious processes. So in terms of the arrest, I'm also happy that these people were arraigned in court. Some of them were given their freedom, while others have stayed back. For Madada, I don't know why she was being arrested. She has two unfortunate happenings for herself. Number one, that the party, which she loved so much, had not given her a flag. Now, you're a woman. You've not got a party flag. You're stranded. You want to stand as an independent. And now here are security officials arresting you.
Well, let's go back to why they are being arrested. You are a student of law.
Yes.
There's what they call illegal drilling in the Penal Code Act.
Yes.
And those are the charges they're actually facing in court. What's your take on that?
Yeah.
And
yeah,
you know, in NUP, Madada is actually a general. General Madada.
You see, the legal drill, when did it happen, Kenneth? How long ago did that legal drill happen? Why the arrest now, after so many months after the drill?
Well, you've been saying that you should arrest people after concluding investigations. Maybe they have been investigating.
And that's not what they told us in court. They just said everyone who participated in the drill will be arrested. Now, I think, number one, I gave you my views about the drill. That you see, if a government will not allow a security force to be within a security force. Now, the National Unity Platform needed to explain what the drill was about, what it was meant to achieve, and why they carried out the drill in the first place.
It was a birthday party. They actually said it was a birthday party. So to honor their leader, they assembled and they honored him. That's what they're saying.
And they honored him in a military fashion. Because they marched, they were wearing red, they had boots, they were saluting. I find that a very delicate matter, but let's wait and see what court decides, whether it was actually a full military drill or it was a birthday celebration mimicking a military drill. I don't want to be biased on this one. I want to remain as objective as they come. But for Madada, specifically, I'm interested because she's a woman. That is why I'm interested. The participation of women, and I can give you the statistics from the 2021 elections. The participation of women has been low. Very few women agree to leave their houses to go and run for political office. Even the women who were in the 11th Parliament, some of them are vouching not to come back. Angelina Asege of Teso. One time I had a conversation with her and I asked her, why aren't you coming back to the election? She said, do you know what it means to be in elections? Do you know what it means to be a politician? When you're a woman, you're a mother, you're a wife. She asked me those questions and I said, I don't know. And she said, it's one of the worst things anyone has to suffer. So I want to give you the statistics so you understand that we are very far from the question of equity and equality. And if we, as far as these statistics of 2021 show, I'm still doing an analysis on Tueheyo's election to see how many women actually stood in the NRM election and for which positions were they standing, because they played a lot of second fiddle. And it matters that we understand that women, if a woman is standing in an election, don't intimidate her, don't arrest her, don't make these things happen, because once you do that, then even the rest of us are going to be more afraid to participate. And so for the case of Madada, I want to beg that the security let go of this woman. She has just enough problems. So in 2021, in Acholi, there were 10 females who were elected. 18 males were elected. In Bukedi, there were 8 female, 21 male. In Bunyoro, there were 12 male, 16. There were 12 female, 16 male. In Busoga, it was 12 against 32. In West Ankole, it was 9 women against 21. In West Uganda, Tuze, now that is Madada's place, there were 5 female, like this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And how many men were there? You can guess. Your guess is as good as mine. 21. Now, if you are having such statistics, it's telling you something. It's telling you that the skew is there. The few that are there need to be encouraged. Fund them. Make them feel good and make the political space as enjoyable as it can be for more women to participate.
While I agree with the statistics that you've put across, one would say it's not wise to argue that probably Madada was arrested because she's a woman.
They are saying Madada was arrested for participating in the drills.
Exactly.
And my question is, what does the law prescribe? You are supposed to be arrested for a crime you have committed as at the time you have committed. Did they report it to the police to say the investigations were starting at that time? I don't know about the new lawyers. They should come out and tell us whether at that time, after the drill, Madada's case was opened at the police for investigations to start. Because if the investigations then started at the time when she has declared political interest, then that is political witch hunt.
From which side?
It is political witch hunt from Tueheyo's side, from government.
But it is
from
not,
security.
It is not Tueheyo who denied her a flag even. Surely.
But she can stand as
be
independent,
fair.
and she did.
Yes, she's entitled to stand as an independent. but you see, when you count it on Tueheyo's party, I think you are becoming overzealous on a matter. I sympathize with Madada. She's a woman. That's number one. But I also want to say, even when you're a woman, it doesn't stop a woman from committing a crime. I've seen women who have killed people. I've seen women who, in the worst, I'm talking of the worst case scenario.
Yes.
I cannot count Madada to be innocent, no guilty, until the court proves her guilty or innocent. Of course, I can look at her challenges as a person, not just as a woman, as a person.
May I prefer you use the gender lens?
I
I have my reasons. I've just substantiated.
You can understand really the
gender lens issue.
Gender lens issue. But I wouldn't want to put it to gender. I'd want to put it to human beings. Because whether a man or a woman, you are entitled to freedom.
Of course.
Whether a man or a woman, you can make a mistake. Whether a man, but you know, when it is seen from the gender perspective, perhaps the male's mistake, which is equally similar, may be seen to be more grave than the female mistake. And perhaps you try to justify it because somebody is either a woman or a male, or even a child, by the way, juvenile. So let's be realistic. Let's take sentiments aside and look at the matters with the realities and facts in it, and be able to deal with the matter genuinely as is and solve the problem. Otherwise, if you have to look at it from this one is in yellow, this one is in red, today Charity came in some bit of red and white, I think it would be another challenging element.
All right. I want to come back to you, Mr. Chemonges, but let's first hear from Dr. Judith. Dr. Judith, you've heard from your colleagues around the table. The reason I'm bringing you now, because this matter touches the political party that you represent on this particular table. When you heard the sentiments around the table, the explanation given by Dr. James Dweheyo, you heard from Charity, but also you heard from Mr. Chemonges. What will be your take-home on this particular issue of NUP?
Of course, my take home, like it has been for the most of the arrests, not actually arrests, abduction that have been happening to our party members. This is political persecution. It has happened before, 2021 it happened, and it's been happening over this past period of 5 years. So for us, we know it's political persecution, and we do not take these things lightly. We as a party of young people, because as you can see, most of these people who have been arrested, the young people, like I told you, who have started families, they're breadwinners. So when you separate them from these people, moreover, even the legal process is always frustrated. So it's not about, if there was hope that the legal process is going to be fair, at least you're like, there's hope, these people will be given bail or something of that sort. But the process is going to be frustrated. I have told you of Bobby Young, who has been in jail for almost 4 years, and these days they've stopped bringing him for hearing, and his case has never been decided. They've never started on it. So you can imagine what is happening to those young people. So for us, we know it's political persecution, and we shall take it as that.
Is it possible you're creating room for what you're calling political persecution to actually occur? Because why do you find it so unique to act and present yourself as a paramilitary group? They have told you the way you dress, the boots, the overalls, the uniform, the marching, the drills, the saluting. You had some of these things being referenced by Charity. Why is it important for you to actually act like that when you know it will be used against you?
So first of all, I did not ever see anywhere where those boots are military boots. Those boots are sold in shops. They are sold everywhere. If they were military boots, why did they stop them from being sold? Those boots are bought in. Why don't they stop them at GRA that they should not be imported into the country? But because they know those are just normal casual outfit. But when it's dressed up by an NUP person, of course they have to find something. Like I told you, the arrest is not about what you have done. It's about what color are you wearing. Are you a National Unity Platform? I've told you people have been arrested for just asking for better health services. We have seen the history of Dr. Kizza Besigye and his arrests and forged up cases ever since 2001. So this is not something new, and Ugandans know it's not something new. Sam Mugumya has disappeared, and the police has denied that they don't have him. He has disappeared because of what? Asking for a better country. Previously, many months back, the Prime Minister came and told us they have Damulira in custody. But when people demanded where is, because Damulira has been missing for the past 5 years, and it's police that took him, and they're like, we are demanding to see Damulira because his family, actually, I stay next to his family. So, and you said you have him, then all of a sudden you cannot produce him. So how are we supposed to say that this is not political persecution? You can imagine, like I said, this is a family. Damulira's family is a family. He has 6 children. So the mother has, the wife has high blood pressure. At the moment, she has high blood pressure and diabetes. She cannot work. So you can imagine she's faced with challenges of taking care of 6 children. You cannot work, and the breadwinner has been missing for the past 5 years. When you have conversations with that lady, she's like, at least if I can see the grave of my husband. And I tell my children, that is your dad. He died, he passed on, and we buried him here. My heart will be at peace. But you can imagine, what is she going to tell these children? Because some of them are still young and they're asking for their father. Where did their father go? So I feel like it's not about whether someone is wearing these boots, because those boots are not military. Even the NUP cape is not military wear. It is just any other cape. So it's not about what you're wearing, it's who is wearing it. That is where the problem is. All
right. Spectrum Xtra on Radio 1 FM 90, reviewing the major events of the week. Panel of 4 here in studio to discuss some of these issues. We're going to go for a break. When we return, we'll get the feedback from the listeners, but also we'll have to connect this discussion to the commemoration of the 30 years of our Constitution, because the issues we are discussing are almost connected to constitutionalism and rule of law. So we want to see whether we are making gains or losses when it comes to our Constitution. Stay tuned, Radio 1 FM 90. We continue after this break. It's Spectrum Extra, live on Radio 1 FM 90. My name is Kenneth Anderson Lukwago, your host. A panel of four. We have Dr. James Treheyo, who comes in from the NRM party. He sits on the Electoral Commission. We have Dr. Judith Nalukwago, Secretary for Professionals in NUP, candidate for Woman Councillor, LOC 5 Makindia West. Ms. Charity Kalebo, Executive Director, Election Watch, Election Laws Institute, pundit on governance issues. She's also sits on the Election Observer. Mr. Timothy Chemonges, the man who is Executive Director at two entities, Parliamentary Watch and the Center for Policy Analysis.
Yes.
And I'll come to you, Mr. Timothy Chemonges. We are commemorating 30 years since coming into force of a constitution. We know the framers sat in the Constituent Assembly, came up with this document. If you look at the preamble, it actually promises a fundamental change in the way things were in our country way back. Let's begin with you on the state of our constitution 30 years later, Mr. Chemonges.
So thank you so much. I think that as we commemorate the 30 years of our constitution, should be a time to reflect on the gains, on the losses. But when you look at closely, you see that there is quite a lot of losses that we've registered than
Give us
the gains.
Balance sheet.
Absolutely. So for me, again, is to look at the question of what had been envisaged by the Constitution, and which has been comparatively said to be one of the best constitution. If you compare, at least for those of us who are constitutional students, if you look at the 1995 Constitution in terms of the specific terms and the specific chapters that the 1995 Constitution has, and you compare with those in the region, by far it stood a bit higher. You look at the chapter 4, which provides explicit human rights, but also rights as far as the rights of human beings are concerned. It exposes them in a very clear manner. And then the other chapters, of course, highlighting the supremacy of the Constitution and the powers that are all that lie with the people. But I think that there are very fundamental things that I would want for me to focus on. It's a question, first of all, around the institutional erosion that we've registered as a country. That today there is very little as far as our institutions that are established in the Constitution. The level of confidence by the citizenry on some of these institutions has greatly reduced, and that goes to the capacity and the ability of the institutions to serve them, including the three arms of government and Parliament in this question, where we see that for the better part, Parliament seemed to present itself as an extension of the executive in terms of the leadership, in terms of the structure, but also many of the decisions that Parliament has undertaken. When you look at institutions, let's say even the IGG, which is largely responsible on matters corruption and the use of resources, and some of those figures that are indicated there, it's a thing that clearly speaks as far as capacity of these institutions to enforce some of these things that have been highlighted. We are talking about how some of the opposition members and some of the opposition members are being arrested. To date, we see there are individuals who were arrested before 2021, and they're still in prisons. For many of them, even have not actually had the chance to be presented before the courts of law. The court, in the recent decision by the Supreme Court, indicating that all files that had been, which were in the military courts, to be transferred to the civilian courts, nothing has, not so much has happened. Of course, there's been a bit of indication that there's quite a number that have been transferred, but there is very little progress that we are seeing towards that direction. It had been envisaged that the people can be able to enjoy and exercise democracy and be able to see the fruits that the 1995 Constitution brought. But I think that the country has retrogressively gone behind for many of these gains that we've achieved. Also should talk about the question of militarization of our elections, militarization all our processes, including what we've just discussed, where we see that the military, in the course of exercising its mandate, for the better part, either they are overzealous, or in the course of the execution of their mandate, you find that they seem to be partisan, and when you connect the dots, you see that even for the actions that are being exercised, they are not well thought through. They are not well. There is not so much in terms of thinking that go through, both in terms of the action, but also in the process. And so I think that even as we reflect on the 1995 Constitution, I'm a bit pessimistic in this matter to say that there's been very little goodwill to ensure that our Constitution serves the interest of the people. For the better part, it has served the interest of the political party and the government of the day. We've seen the manner in which the 1995 Constitution has been handled in terms of the amendments that have been registered. And some, of course, those are key around the age limit, the term limits, and even if these amendments ought to have happened, you see that the process in which they are done greatly undermines the overall objective of this Constitution. And so, for me, I'm a bit. I'm not very proud to say that it's a time to greatly reflect on this Constitution, because I see that there is very little that the Ugandans are realizing. Lastly, is around the issue of the civic space that the people should be able to exercise, whether in the civil society, whether the general public, or even in a manner of expressing us, people expressing themselves. We've seen today the NRM were presenting we're taking back their presidential signatures to the Electoral Commission, and we could see them in big processions, celebrating and feeling very happy, which ideally should be the case. And I think that it's good to see them doing that. The challenge is that not everyone would enjoy that kind of experience. Ideally, for which, let's say, if the National Unity Party, which I've seen they have expressed interest by one of their candidates to stand for the position of the president, if they are tempted to do that, I think they would be met with a lot of resistance and sometimes even the bit of arrests going on. And so I think that as we reflect on this 1995 Constitution, we must hinge this on the people. We must hinge this on the question of and the people, I mean the ultimate interpretation of the supremacy and where the power belongs to the people. How much power do the people have? What is the economic status even to exercise this mandate? And how much do institutions have to be able to propel this? Ultimately, again, as I conclude, I think for the better part, especially looking at Parliament, an area that I'm very interested in, the number one mandate and primary role of Parliament is to ensure that they protect and uphold the Constitution. Although for the better part, I think they tend to forget that they should be the leading custodians of this Constitution by ensuring that in the course of exercising their mandate, they're able to dispense in the interest of the people. What we see today seems to be opposite, either deliberately or it is an approach that has been normalized, where we see that the elite class seem to take the day, both in how power is exercised, how resources are dispensed, but also, more importantly, how people enjoy the freedoms as provided for in the Constitution.
All right. Thank you so much for your comments there. Let me come to you, Charity, on the issue of constitutionalism. Looking at our Constitution 30 years later, what would you say? What is your analysis of the situation? Is this Constitution working for us? Is it time to rethink it? Has it been mutilated, like some people have suggested? There are so many things that have been said during the course of this week about the state of our constitution. What is your take?
So I like the fact that I have been seeing the story of the constitution from the beginning and why we had to have a constitution as a country and what had happened before the 1995 constitution. Before the 1995 constitution, we had that pigeonhole constitution, we had the Republican constitution, and we know from the elders and from the books of law that some presidents led by decree. Those are books, I said books of law and some elders. Then came the 1995 constitution with promises right from the preamble. And when you look at this document holistically and just run over it, of course, we have had major amendments to it, 2 major amendments that have affected it because there were safety nets. The first one was the term limit amendment, and the second one being the age limit amendment. Those 2 amendments did cause some hiccup within the whole constitutional setup. Why? Because it had been envisaged that the 3 arms of government would exercise what we call separation of power as per Montesquieu. Montesquieu is a scholar that lawyers like to reference all the time. He had a preconceived idea of every institution should act independent of the other, the 3 arms of government, such that they drive accountability and good governance from each other. However, in the case of Uganda, what we have is checks and balances. We do not have separation of powers. That is why you heard my friend Timothy telling you that there are times when he thinks that the executive has taken over the power of Parliament, and Parliament does not understand its power. But we, from the law school, it is clear that actually the Constitution is supposed to be protected by the courts of law. That we have what we call the Constitutional Court, because that court is supposed to interpret for us things we do not understand in that Constitution and make them our daily life, or make them easier for us to understand. And when we do not know what the law or the spirit of that law entirely means, we go to the Constitutional Court for interpretation. And you've seen a lot of Constitutional Court interpretations, one of them being that civilians cannot be tried in military courts. That came out of constitutional interpretation, and the courts of law were saying, as per our constitution, civilians should be tried in the courts of law, ordinary courts of law. So when you look at the Universal Peer Review report, or the Universal Peer Review Mechanism report, right from the election of 2006, Uganda has been on a decline in upholding its own constitutional clauses or its own constitution. That Bill of Rights, or what we call Chapter 4, was introduced in the Constitution to improve on the respect of human rights. And if you remember the original speech that the president gave when he launched the 1995 Constitution, and there are 2 or 3 clauses that I want to reference. Number 1, Article 3. Article 3 of the Constitution enjoins Ugandans that if anybody wants to abrogate that Constitution or even change it in the way Ugandans don't like it, they must defend the Constitution. And it goes ahead and buttresses that article in 3 in Article 17 G and E. And I wanted to read 17G and E verbatim. And you see, Ugandans are supposed to be going through what we call civic education by Uganda Human Rights Commission. That has not happened. Why? Because the Uganda Human Rights Commission is poorly funded. And I was giving you the speech the president had at the parliament when he was launching the 1995 constitution. He said, we have we have a human rights body to ensure respect of human rights. And he said, I am excited that Ugandans are not going to be killed in Pandagari. Ugandans are not going to disappear. There is not going to be insecurity. But you just had a doctor here telling us she's a neighbor to somebody who has gone missing for the last 5 years. And his children are asking, where is our daddy? That is a human rights question. And it's a very, that is one of the so many people that cannot be traced. And this morning I asked the president to use his prerogative of mercy, which he has in this constitution that we're celebrating after 30 years. He should use that prerogative just to show that he still believes in this constitution, to let go of the political prisoners. It's in his right. It's in his breadth. It's his choice. He has ever forgiven a man who had been in prison and on death row. If you remember, the politician, and he's now in the village happily farming and growing food and relating with the community.
Chris Rakasisi.
Thank you very much, Kenneth. I was looking for his name. That is it. So Chris is out there. Prerogative of mercy is why he left prison. So the president, to celebrate the 30 years of the Constitution, should use his prerogative of mercy and let go of political prisoners. It's my request to him.
All right.
Now, the other thing I wanted us to reflect on, because I told you I wanted to reflect on Article 3.
As you wind up.
And I wanted to reflect on Article 17. 17 is the duties and responsibilities of who? Of a citizen. But why is it important for us to know our duties and also know our responsibilities? And also know Chapter 4 of the Constitution, at least even if you don't go to law school. Just read and revise Chapter 4 of the Constitution, because it does outline the rights of a citizen. It outlines your right to life. It outlines your right to freedom from torture. And you are always hosting people here on Anti-Torture Act. That right is non-derogable. When we say non-derogable, it means should you be arraigned in courts of law and it is proved at the entrance that you were actually tortured, that case collapses there and then. That is what it means to have a non-derogable right. But we have had cases of torture. And we're celebrating 30 years of this Constitution. But that doesn't mean that everything in the Constitution is dead. No. We still have cultural institutions provided for under Article 37. We have the affirmative action provided for under Article 33. We have women being elected in 78A. We have political parties being provided for. I mean, so we have sections, or at least we have a standard. We have a place where we are starting.
All right.
But I want us to emphasize Article 17 going forward.
All right. Let's go to Dr. Tweheyo. Dr. Tweheyo, very quickly, your assessment as we commemorate 30 years of our Constitution.
I'd rather quickly go back to why do we have a Constitution? Why does a country, not only Uganda but any other, and what is a Constitution after all? It is simply a set of principles which fundamentally help a country on how it should be governed. And the purpose of it is to make sure that there is a framework of government, to limit the powers of this government, that's one other reason, to protect individual rights, to define natural goals and values, provide the legal basis for government, and to ensure order and stability, and then foster legitimacy, and of course, the national unity. That is the major purpose of that should be the principle. Now, of course, within this, there could be some faults here and there. But does the constitution we have a framework of government? Yes, it separates the powers. Whether these powers, when separated, behave or misbehave, that's a different issue. Do we have this constitution limiting the powers of government? Yes. What does it talk about? What is the role of a parliament? What is the role of even a constitutional court? Because the constitutional court now is there to arbitrate in some cases where I say, oh, what I'm doing is constitutional, and the charity, as the lawyer goes, said, no, it is unconstitutional. Has, for example, the constitutional court pronounced itself on a number of issues, both for and or against government? Yes, we have seen it happen. Do we have national values, national goals? Yes. Whether they are mishandled or not, that's another issue altogether. Do we have the legal basis on which the government stands? For example, if we say so-and-so is elected, regardless of whether you are whichever party, when you are elected rightly, do we say, yes, you have been elected? Yes. And if you think there is any mischief, do you have where to run to? Yes. All these things are there. Now, we should separate the issue of a constitution from the governance or the limitations or the misconduct of some individuals, whether in government or outside government. That is why anybody who is icked can always have where to run to. Because if there was no constitution, I can tell you, there would be more anarchy. That is why my sister would say, look, I ask the president to use his prerogative powers. These prerogative powers are provided for where? In the same constitution, you are saying it shouldn't be. So let's look at these things realistically. I agree with you.
But she did state the issue of political prisoners. So it sort of connects with the governance that you're trying to run away from.
The issue of political prisoners. But when do you determine that this prisoner is a political one and this prisoner is, what do you call them?
Ordinary prisoner.
An ordinary prisoner or whatever. It has been determined by the case in the first place, the nature of the case, by the right person who can differentiate this, and these are the lines.
I can give you a definition.
Yes.
They say when it walks like a cock, then it's probably a cock. All these people who have been incarcerated come from one political party, the NUP.
And it works like a cock.
Yes.
No, you people, you think they are coming from. I've told you that we have, right now as we speak, we have a number of our own registrars
Who are arrested
and who orchestrated the issue of changing results of people. That's why you have seen us having issues in our own primaries. You get that? So should we call those political prisoners or call them criminals? Or should we let court decide whether they are criminals or political prisoners? I want to say every Ugandan should have the chance to be protected by the same constitution which we talk of. Every Ugandan should have a chance to make an appeal to the rightful center that is given the powers by this constitution to act. Every Ugandan also on the other side should be ready to both have the ability and struggle to make sure that what is wrong is seen to be wrong and what is right is seen to be right. And this is where we are. What we think is my right may be actually stepping on this system of mine. And if I step on this system of mine and you don't have even a chance to say, look, you are inflicting pain on me, then the constitution will not be there to protect her. And if it is not there to protect her, then that's where anarchy begins from. So first of all, let's admit that we need it. That's number one. Number two, let's admit that the way it was structured and the purpose for which it is meant is there.
We want that constitution
and
to work
we
for
would want
us.
this constitution to work rightly. And we would want our government to implement the actions of its work within the framework of the constitution. And this is the reality. We must admit the constitution a number of times have been adjusted. But the constitution is meant, as I tell you there, to ensure order and stability. So if these constitutions allow disorderliness, instability, then we would have left, if we left it, then we would have failed to do the duty to stabilize the country, to protect the Ugandans and their property. And when you are given that mandate, you really have a duty to do that.
Dr. James Feheyo, let me give you a direct question that people have been saying. You say the Constitution has been adjusted. So people say the Constitution had been adjusted to fit the demands of an individual.
Not the
term limits out because President Yoweri Museveni was caught up.
Age limit of the country.
Age limit out because President Yoweri Museveni was caught up with the age limit. What would you say?
How does Museveni's age fit the demands of Uganda?
The demands of Ugandans.
How does that?
To fit the situation as is, and that's the purpose. Because you should look at it to ensure order and stability. If this situation is going to bring instability, or if it's going to bring disorder, it is only fair and fitting. And by the way, does President Museveni wake up, get me the constitution and I change it? No. It is put the right persons.
And
if they say no,
change it.
If they say no, this is not the right thing to do. And it's quite often these people should ask the people they represent.
Let me ask you this question very quickly.
Go ahead.
You talked about stability and for the good of the country. How does lifting the term limits and the age limit act in the good of the country?
Incidentally, you tend to look at the upper limit. But you also need to look at the population that we have. 70% of the people we have in this country, of the 50 million, are young. So why don't you want a young boy or young girl of 18 to go and apply to be a president? Haven't you seen them now? By the way, you go to the Electoral Commission and see how many. Katumba Oye. Aren't they there? So why do you want us to eliminate the young men and women of this country when they form the biggest majority? So did we do wrong to say now the youth, you participate actively and you can reach the highest level?
To the best of my knowledge, there was no young person complaining at that time. The fact of the matter is the age limit had caught up with President Yoweri Museveni.
Not at all. Should we first wait for them to complain? Or we should look at the reality of the matter
for
stability purposes? Yes, for stability purposes. Why do you want to exclude them?
Museveni was not causing stability.
No. Why do you want to exclude 70% of the young people from running for presidency, for example? They have demonstrated it to you.
Xtra on Radio 1 FM 90. Let's go for a break now. When we return, we'll hear from Dr. Judith Nalukwago responding to some of the issues that have come across, but also to give us a perspective on the state of our constitution 30 years later. Stay tuned to Radio 1 FM 90. We'll also sample some of your comments that you've sent in via the WhatsApp line 0703 090. All right, thank you so much for staying with us on Spectrum Xtra, live on Radio 1 FM 90. And we have a panel for analyzing the key events of the week. But let me now go to the feedback that has come in from the listeners before we return here in studio for further discussion. Somebody writes in, and that is Mwalimu, who says the preamble of our constitution must now be deleted. The past is back. For those of us who grew up in the early 80s and saw the excesses can only relate. It is the exact script. What's sudden is that the promises and hopes in that constitution are now being ditched. I attended the CA plenaries then, and the debate resolutions were really for a better country. Sadly, it's not. Then we have another comment coming in from Mawa Amaza Moyo. He writes, good evening, Kenneth and the panelists in studio. In Uganda, it's a total crime to be a member of any opposition party. Remember, His Excellency Museveni accepted multi-party politics due to pressure and fear of losing the donor funds. All the acts the security organs do are in favor of the NRM, unless Ugandans have forgotten the 1988 speech of Jaja. We are under the most brutal government, he claims, which came in through means of war. Uganda must know any person talking about change will be treated like a rebel. This is still NRA in action. A puppy is a dog. Good evening, Spectrum Xtra. What a surprise to hear a Dr. Tweheyo talk like an informed village person on matters known to everyone. His submissions are just dishonest, and he knows that in the depth of his heart. The only information to him is that Ugandans aren't that stupid as he may think. The truth is that night follows day. It gives you a Bible and a Bible quotation. I think I'll share with you. and that is Fred from Gayaza. Then we have another comment, the panel, especially Dr. Lukwago. Thank you so much for your contribution. And Mr. Chemongos, we are very proud of you, young professional women who had stood the ground to challenge the inequality, the imbalance, the misrule of this regime. We know the people in power suffocates everyone who speaks the truth. Be strong and keep the faith. We will overcome one day. But he does not give us a name. Then somebody writes and says, Mr. Kenneth, in politics, we are far from the tail. In Uganda, UPC didn't do what NRM is doing currently. That's what he suggests. Then, lastly but not least, Okama Emmanuel, listening in from Mukono Municipality, says, all arrests that occur to politicians during the election season is not something new, that we shall be convinced that they broke any law. Yet it has been happening seasons before. Very quickly, Charity, let's hear from you before we bring in Dr. Nalukwago. You said there's some piece of information you actually want to provide us.
So, Article 17E is every Ugandan should defend Uganda and render national service when necessary. Meaning that it ties with Article 3. You have to defend Uganda against the following things: cooperate with lawful agencies in maintenance of law and order. H, register for electoral and other lawful purposes. Combat corruption and misuse or wastage of public property. Then to create and protect a clean and healthy environment. All these are duties of a Ugandan. You can see that the Constitution gives you the
Duty.
power and the duty. It's a mandate that has been given to the citizen to defend Uganda. But every time citizens come out to defend Uganda, unfortunately, they follow you, they make you feel uncomfortable. Has actually
issue of constitution.
Constitution
All
was
right,
being
so you have
made.
grown with this constitution.
Exactly, I've grown with it, but I'm also happy that I've interacted with people who participated in making this constitution. Former MP Maria Matembe was part of the members who made the constitution, and I'm happy I've interacted with her.
All right.
Of course, she talks with a lot of grief because of what her expectations were and what has happened in that period of the past around 20 years plus of this constitution. So the Constitution, like Charity has said, gives us a right to defend our country from corruption. You remember March to Parliament. With the youth, I'm very happy that us young people these days, we read and understand what is happening in our country. We understand the Constitution, and when we saw gross mismanagement of our resources, we decided, you know what? We should hold a march to Parliament because the Constitution gives us a right to defend ourselves, to defend this country against corruption. And that is how the march to Parliament last year was organized. But unfortunately, you saw peaceful people having a demonstration, and you saw how they were met with brutal force. They were arrested, and they were in prison for weeks and weeks. I've been one of the people who has organized demonstrations before. Remember Fees Must Fall 2019, the 15 ladies. I was one of them who organized.
That is
And
Makerere.
Yes, Makerere University. And you saw what happened to us, what they did to us. So like I said, it's not about what you're doing. It's about who is doing it. This government sees anyone who is trying to advocate for a better country as an enemy. So when we look at our constitution is a very good document, and it's a very progressive paper. But when you look at the implementers of this constitution, because the constitution states out clearly who is going to be in charge of implementing what here and there, who is in charge of this. But when you look at our implementers, for example, the police and the army, the Parliament of Uganda, have they done what they are supposed to do? No. The judiciary, because they're supposed to hold and safeguard our constitution. when you look at the judiciary, if someone has been arrested and they are in jail for almost 5 years and have not been brought for trial, I mean, that is political persecution, which Dr. Otohe has been trying to deny that has not been happening. It's been happening, and we have names under political persecution. So has the judiciary upheld when the Supreme Court pronounced itself on the trial of citizens in military courts, and they were like, no, their files should be transferred to the Constitutional Court or other courts. And up to now, nothing has yet happened. So is the judiciary doing its role of upholding the Constitution? The legislature, our members of parliament, do they need to be first paid to change articles in the Constitution? We have seen the change of the age limit. We have seen a change in the term limits. People were given, in term limits, I think they were given 40 million, each member of parliament, to change. In the age limit, they were bribed with around 80 million. And these people were actually given facilitation.
Allegedly.
Yes, allegedly given 80 million. So these people were actually given allowances of 20 million each to go to their constituencies and interact with their people and, one, explain to them what these changes are and then hear their feedback. First of all, some of them didn't even try to do that. But even those who tried to do it, many of their constituents were against the removal of age limit. But they came and they were clear. My people are against it, but for me, I am saying yes, and I'm going to take yes. So you can imagine such members of parliament who are not trustworthy with the voters who elected them, in that the voters can say something different and they say something different. So because they've allegedly gotten money from someone because of change of the constitution. When you look at what the Constitution spells out, because in the Constitution, that's where we get all these different laws that govern probably police, the military, and all the other things, professional sectors. When you look at these laws, what is the role of police? What's the role of the military? At the moment, we don't actually have police in Uganda. Police has been turned into the military, in that roles that are supposed to be done by the police are now done by the military. The police has been militarized. In our elections, police is supposed to conduct to help in maintaining law and order during election period, but you're seeing people wearing red top, you're seeing a military police everywhere, the ones conducting, helping. Like, what is happening in our country? So those are the questions you have to ask ourselves. We've talked about separation of powers, the legislature, judiciary, and the executive. The executive has overstepped its mandate, especially the president, in terms of what the legislature is doing, in terms of, one, influencing what they're supposed to do by giving bribes here and there. And you saw reports that after 2021, actually towards 2021, our national budget debt rose significantly because of the much money we borrowed in order to influence, one, what was happening in the election, and two, what was happening in parliament, which is an absurd reality of what is happening to us as Uganda and our constitution. So the document is a good one, but the problem is with the implementers, that is the legislature, the problems with the judiciary, the problems with the military, with the police, in that this document is not serving the Ugandans, but it is serving one person. That is why people like Miriam Matembe were like, no, I cannot be part of this movement system anymore, because what we set out in this constitution to help Ugandans, they're not upholding it, so I cannot be part of this system anymore. So what is the role of Ugandans? Role of Ugandans is we have to push harder. Like I said, we are in a situation where it looks hopeless, but we never lose hope. You have to keep pushing harder because our constitution is a good one, and we just have to push for it to be implemented. Maybe push for better leaders who can come in and implement the constitution as it is.
All right, let's move on now to our next topic of discussion, and I want to begin with you on this particular topic, Dr. James Tweheyo, because of your history. Dr. James Tweheyo, you see here, was a leader of Uganda National Teachers Union. Well, that union has announced a strike by teachers who are imparting the knowledge in art. Come Monday, there will be no teaching because the government has not fulfilled its promise to enhance their salaries in a phased manner for the last 3 years. Dr. James Tweheyo, what message do you have for your colleagues? Because once a teacher,
before the message,
always a teacher.
Before the message, it is right
and you were teaching arts.
Yes,
if
I'm a teacher of arts, English language and literature. It is right and fitting for anybody to get the pay equivalent to his or her work. Equal work for equal pay. That's number one. That's principle number one. Principle number two is that it is also important for somebody to demand for what is your due or fair share. But it is also important to mobilize and organize and demand something rightly and get it. It is also extremely important that when you are going to demand for that, you should build allies. Because remember that the people you are pushing also have the other side of the story, and they would want you not, in some cases, to get what you are demanding for. I have been through it myself. I know it rightly so. So, number one, the teachers are right to demand it. But their leaders have issues. And I will say it here in the listening of everybody. I was a teacher leader. 8 years ago, I was the General Secretary of the Teachers Union. I mobilized teachers in all sectors, all, from pre-primary to secondary, both arts and to teacher education. I mobilized teachers both at primary and secondary, and we built a team that would negotiate for these teachers. And we succeeded. Whether we succeeded rightly or wrongly, but at least somehow, in a way, we succeeded. Maybe, I should tell you possibly why I think we succeeded. One, even when we were arguing and negotiating and fighting, we lived by one principle, that the institution we are negotiating with is our employer. That's principle number one, is our employer. Number two, that not all those people on the other side are enemies. That's the principle. And therefore, would have an alliance and discussion with the Ministry of Finance, would have a discussion with the Ministry of Education, would have a discussion with public service, would even have a discussion with parents and our own teachers, would even go a further, an extra mile, to have a discussion with our children. Say, you children, we are doing this not in order to punish you, no. But we are doing this to get what we need to be able to teach you better and make you better people. So, in this case, I look at it objectively and say yes. But do you understand now that the teacher union, I left to Eheyo, has been split into 7 pieces? Terrible. It's a pain in my heart. I personally sacrificed a lot to make sure that this institution is built.
You ate it like a song.
Now listen to this one. You're so annoying. I left.
That implies there is no institution you built.
I tried.
Because without you, it would.
If I had not tried, even the little that is there would not be there now.
All right. So in
because
short,
I'd put a system.
Should the teachers be
now before the teachers even reach that level? Have they sat with their leaders and discussed the strategy to get what they need?
They tell you they have been demanding for this enhancement.
Yes, for the 7 years. Yes. Meanwhile, as they demand for the 7 years, they're splitting 7 times. What does that tell you?
It doesn't matter if the
what
government.
Does that tell you?
The government
the
promised
arts teachers are on their own. Listen.
If the government promised an enhancement, it should come, so that we don't even get this split.
Right, it should come, but then how does it come when you, the poor, demanding it, are splitting and fighting amongst yourselves? Do you know why the Israelis took 40 years to reach?
Just send the money to the
accounts
of the
teachers. Do
teachers.
you know that Israel,
the principle is
the promised land of Canaan.
The principle is send the enhanced salaries to the accounts of the teachers. That's what you promised.
Listen, Canaan is only.
Those are biblical issues,
Listen
Dr.
to me,
Tweheyo.
Yes, he's driving his point.
I am driving my point.
You drive it.
Do you know that Canaan is only about 400 kilometers away from Egypt? But you know that it took them 400 years because of the confusion? When their leader would reach here and they say, please, God, we need the water. And God directs him, please, hit the rock once. The other man would hit it 3 times. Did he even reach there? Now, I want to empower our leaders, especially the teacher leaders. Negotiate properly and get what is due for these teachers. I want to empower our government. And by the way, I want to tell you, even some people in the government take advantage of the confusion to stop or fail what is there. And it is painful, let me tell you. I'm a teacher. My wife is a teacher. My friends are teachers. It is a pain to have somebody getting 4 or 5 million and you, who taught this very person, you are getting 800,000. It is painful. It hurts. And I say they are entitled to it. But I also say sometimes they spoil the broth. I can stop it at that.
All right, let's go to Charity. Charity, why are you looking at Dr. James to hear you like that?
It's very good for me to look at Dr. James.
Let's hear your take on the teachers' strike.
Dr. James is a good man who has told you the truth. Number one, the Employment Act is to the effect as long as a worker has a contract with his employer, the employer must pay that worker the amount that is due to the worker. That is the Employment Act as it is. We've just talked to the Constitution and we said here that laws set standards. It is a crime for you not to pay your worker. So teachers are employed by the government. And it is a crime if the government does not pay the teachers. That is one. Two, the Labor Unions Act allows for teachers to organize and even go on strike. It is their right. It is again a legal right, and it is a crime for anyone to block a strike if it has gone through the due process. That's the law through the Labor Unions Act provides for that due process. Now we also have what we call the Labor Unions Dispute Settlement Act, which works alongside the Labor Unions Act.
It was actually signed during the time when I was a General Secretary. I have my signature on it.
Fantastic. Now, knowing that the framework is in place, these teachers are within their legal mandate to go on strike on Monday. They are within their legal mandate to express their dissatisfaction in as far as non-payment is concerned for the last 3 years.
Non-increment, not non-payment.
Non-increment of payment. But what did government promise?
Do you have the agreement here?
I don't have the agreement here, and that is what I want, because now we can only talk about it legally if there is an agreement.
That's right.
Is there an agreement or no agreement? Because if it was verbal, it's another story. Then there the lawyer begins to go. Because ideally, you cannot contract for an amount beyond 500,000 and it is not written. Absolutely. And it is not signed and it's not agreed. So if government just said these words to the teachers, then they cannot strike. They have no contract. Let them first produce the contract. Now I don't know from you, Dr. James, who has been previously here, did government give them a contract agreeing to terms of increment within 3 years, or actually when they stopped the strike the other time, it was a negotiation? Because it's one of the two. If it was a negotiation, then we cannot proceed.
I'm told the negotiations were still going on. The last time they met, even with the Committee of Parliament, and I think it is very, very recent, I understand in the Committee of Parliament, if you go the records.
Which is the Hansard.
Yeah, in the Hansard. If you went there, you'd get what they discussed. And I'm told one of the leaders of the teachers was asked, can you tell this committee what you agreed with the president, what you agreed with the Committee of Education the last time they met? She became tight-lipped. So, I don't mind, by the way.
I think on these issues of the teacher salaries, we should not have legalese around
it. I wouldn't
then how do you demand for your payment if you don't have a legal document?
We know for a fact that the government promised to enhance their salaries. That's on record. It was a public matter.
Government promising in word is different from government
Signing an agreement and a contract.
writing and signing. If you will notice, sometimes the president gives a statement, and then when he writes down, and the last paragraph he says, follow the law.
Absolutely.
When what he said is not exactly what is on paper.
All right.
But on paper he says, follow the law.
Absolutely.
Because he knows.
I really feel the
Quickly,
pain.
let's
if
come to
people-
you,
as you come to
Dr.
my
Judith.
sister, Dr. Judith.
Dr. Judith,
I feel the pain when my fellow teachers are not given what they deserve. I feel the pain. We have the negotiation teams that go to negotiate with the public service. They are there. The thing is there. That was my first demand in 2013 when we went on a strike.
All right.
I didn't ask for money. I asked for that.
Dr. Judith.
And why can't they use it?
In NUP, you are in charge of the professionals, and this is your area. Very quickly, in 1 minute, if you can tell us, are these teachers right to go on strike or not?
Yes, surely they're right to go on strike. First of all, as someone who is from a family of teachers, my parents are teachers, I have uncles and aunties. Actually, the biggest profession in my family is teachers. So I understand. And as someone who has lived through hardships of being schooled or brought up by teachers due to the salary they were paid by then, because I remember my mom used to get around 200,000 Uganda shillings. And the same for my father. So you can imagine the challenges we went through as 6 children at home. You have to go to school, they have to feed you, and that is the salary your parents are getting. Because for us, our parents used to tell us what they get, because you have to know where you come from. The things you're doing, you have to know that your parents cannot afford or they can afford. I went through, I used to see my parents struggle in that they have to borrow money for me to have this. They have, because for me, I was a very bright child and I went to good schools. They made sure I do go to good schools. So I saw the struggle they went through. So when these teachers come out on strike, I understand the struggles they're going through, because they're not only teaching or grooming the nation, but they're also feeding families. And also as a student of, I did a diploma in law, and I really studied labor law because it's one of the options I chose, because it's an option you can choose. And I know these teachers have a right to strike if what they negotiated or what they were promised has not come through. When you go to the legalities, personally, I'm a medical person, and in 2020, that was 2021, the president signed a document that medical interns are supposed to be paid 2.5 million Uganda shillings. It's a signed document. It is in the Ministry of Public Service. It was shared and everywhere. And these interns were paid 2.5 million for only 1 year. After 1 year, the money was nowhere. They were like, no, we don't have money. We can't pay you that money. And I'm one of the people who were affected, because starting my year, the money was reduced to 1 million. So it doesn't matter the legalities. The question is the money there, or what are our priorities?
All right.
Because you cannot look at, right now RDCs are getting new vehicles, and not RDCs, LC5s, they're buying for them new vehicles. Why wouldn't we prioritize people who are building our nation, that's the teachers, and give them salary increment rather than buying new vehicles for RDCs?
All right,
So
very
it's
quickly.
a question of priorities.
Mr. Chemonges, you'll have the final say on this
LC5,
issue.
yes.
Yeah, so I've
Very
just,
quickly, in a few
I've,
seconds.
I've been part of the recent study at a national level to understand what the magnitude of the difference in pay to the teachers looks like, and we did this at a national level, and I should say that some of the findings that we got is that there's a big crisis happening in the schools, going into the power dynamics in how the teachers are.